Hello, I'm Ann Weiser Cornell. This is Support for Stressful Times. Wonderful to be with you today, even though the times are very stressful. At least we can be together. And what I want to have us do today is share our tips for support in stressful times. Let's take a moment together right now and just arrive, feel yourself here. Put my hand on my chest. You can do that if you want to. To me, putting my hand on my chest gives me a sense of, it's like giving myself a hug. It gives me a sense of self-care and comfort. Sometimes I put my hand here too. And you don't have to do that, but you may want to give it a try. And then I am also feeling my body supported by the chair I'm sitting in, supported by the floor beneath me, which is also supported by the earth from which many blessings flow. We pause and feel being here and now, being here and now. And one of the things I like to do in stressful times is to draw on the resources of here and now, which is what we're doing together right now. So just the feeling of your body supported. If it feels right to let a hand move to your heart, your belly, maybe somewhere else needs a hand. And also be aware of your surroundings. And it's quite possible that right now you're in a safe place, I hope you are, that's familiar to you and that includes familiar objects that are meaningful to you, something perhaps that's beautiful or that was a gift that someone gave you. Yeah, your room might be messy and it might also be full of reminders of things you need to do, but let's notice the ways that where you are right now has something nurturing for you in it. So bringing in some nurturing from your surroundings. And then we pause to do that. Pausing to do that. So here we are, and it's nice to be with you. We're going to share our tips for support in stressful times as we look back over our lives previous to now, maybe especially the last few years. For many of us, those have been special, stressful in a unique way, but life can be stressful for anybody at any time and for all kinds of reasons, not just a pandemic. So as we pause and gather our resources right now, including the resource of being in a supportive group, let's ask ourselves, what has helped you? What have been your supports during this time? I'll just say that last night I saw my daughter. She lives in a different city, a plane ride away. I haven't seen her for 6 months. She's 34, very go businesswoman, delightful. As we sat in an outdoor seating in a restaurant, I'm feeling touched as I remember now how meaningful that was to be able to spend that time one-to-one. And that helped me get in touch with how much I miss being with people, having conversations, talking to people. I feel lucky that I have some of that. There are other people who have very little. So I'm noticing an experience that really nourished me. I'm pausing right now to let it in. And having experiences like that, nurturing experiences, taking them seriously, really intending to create them, It's one of the things that's really helped me get through these stressful times. Some of them are special, like seeing my daughter after 6 months, and some of them are daily, like taking a walk with my partner. We're very good about taking our walk every day. If one of us is grumpy and reluctant, the other one says, "Oh, come on." We always get out the door. It's precious. It's not just a walk. There's something about the routine, there's something about being together, there's something about being outdoors and pausing to take that in, to take that seriously. So, yeah, we want your tips too. Feel free to ask yourself right now, what has helped? And even asking ourselves the question, what has helped, is itself a useful practice for these times. What has helped? Hans Jörg writes, short online calls with Zoom, my lovely wife, my dogs, and focusing. Ah, so nice. So I noticed that you said short online calls with Zoom. Maybe the longer ones aren't so nice. And I'm so happy that you and your wife have each other in this time. And your dogs. There's something really special. I don't live with animals. I'm so aware that companion animals can be such a comfort and focusing, of course. Maria writes, I have a big brother that's a good listener. Wow, something to really appreciate. Definitely. And Lily writes, being with my children and grandchildren. Lucky that you get to do that, huh? And playing with pets. Yes. And going very slowly. Going very slowly. Now let's pause and just take that one in for a while. In stressful times, something in us can become anxious. Something in us can feel like there's a kind of urgency or a desperation. I'm behind. I need to rush. I need to hurry. There's a sense of an inner pressure. And none of that really helps, does it? I mean, sometimes there is a genuine urgency, but even so, it is always possible to pause. I was talking to a trainee of mine the other day who said that whenever she needs to speak, her words seem to crowd in her mouth and then to fight each other as for which will come out first, and that she feels like she's not being very articulate. And I said, you know what might help? Pause and let that kind of sort out before you speak. And that reminded me, and that helped her, but that reminded me of when I was in my 30s and I was going to meetings and other people were standing up and speaking, and I felt so nervous about doing that. The few times that I stood up to speak, I felt like I was speaking garbage. I was ashamed and embarrassed by the things I said and how I felt they came across. And then I got the trick, which is stand up so that people know it's your turn to speak. And then take a breath and let the first sentence form. Amazing. When I did that, I was no longer ashamed of the things I said. Maybe they weren't any more brilliant than before, but it came out in a way I was happy with. In fact, maybe you even notice when I lead this webinar that I sometimes pause and I don't say, very often. Same thing. I'm pausing to let what I have to say gather. Well, pausing before we speak is only one example. We can pause before we eat. We could pause before we get to today's main activity. Just let ourselves gather. So thank you so much, Lily, for talking about slowing down, how going slowly is a resource. It's a way to get through stressful times. Sonia writes, walking in the park, sometimes running a little bit. Nice. Maria says, these meetings are helpful. Oh, I'm so glad. That's great. And Nancy is here. Nancy says, I find peace while looking out or going into our backyard. The trees and plants are thriving. I'm so glad to hear that. You have a place to go that's right in your backyard. Hester's in Luxembourg right now on holiday and writes, I've been coming to Luxembourg since I was 14. It's very quiet here when walking. And right now I'm alone for 2 days. I really like the quiet, listening to nature, walking with my dog, silently with no goal, just listening and looking. How nice to allow ourselves to take a walk with no goal. So much of life seems like it's taken up with do this for this reason. What if we give ourselves time that are open, free, with no goal? Yes, and Elizabeth writes, extra sleep. Allow ourselves extra sleep. We need that. Shakespeare wrote about sleep. It knits up the raveled sleeve of care. Sleep is very restorative. Napping also is another way to get sleep. I now take a nap every day if I can. And I can on most days, luckily, partly because I work from home now. My medical advisor recommended naps, my acupuncturist actually. And I said, but my mind is busy. It's hard to slow it down. And he said, the nap isn't for your mind, it's for your body. If your body's resting, don't worry about what your mind is doing. That was really great. Oh, and Hester is adding, not just walking with no goal, but also touching, tasting things in the woods and smelling the air. Okay, so all the senses are being engaged there. Tasting things in the woods. You might discover a new taste treat, a new vegetable. Sharon writes, focusing partnerships. Yeah, when you learn the focusing process and then you learn how to be a focusing partner, that is such a great support for stressful times. Andrea writes, writing in a journal. Writing in a journal has been helpful. Okay. And for Andrea, that's a way of witnessing herself and being with herself. How beautiful. Yeah. So in general, also, so journaling is one way to do it. Just pausing and sensing, as we're doing a bit right now, is another way to witness ourselves. So instead of charging through life without noticing myself, which I have done, it's possible to pause and sense, how am I right now? Let's do that together right now. Notice what happens when you simply pause and become aware of your body here and now. And I especially mean your whole body and the inner area of your body, throat, chest, stomach, and belly. This inner area of the body tends to be very sensitive to emotional meanings, emotional goings on. If you are feeling anxious, you might feel that in the stomach, like I do, or perhaps in your neck, or in your throat or your chest. And if you're feeling sad, maybe you'll feel that in your chest, throat, stomach. There's no particular place in the body that has a particular emotional meaning. It's just that the body allows itself. I like to put it this way: the body allows itself to be used for emotional communications. And as you pause and sense how you are in your body, you're actually completing something. It's like when one person speaks and is giving a message, that message isn't really complete until another person or group of people, or even yourself, can hear the message. So your body's sending you messages about how you are. And for you to pause and get the messages allows them to complete. And sometimes, very often actually, when you acknowledge what you're sensing, it begins to shift. I remember before I learned this method, focusing, I used to think that if I ignored my feelings, maybe they would go away. This was kind of the style in my family. Don't notice feelings of anxiety or worry or grief. Just live as if they weren't there, and maybe they'll go away. My mom and dad grew up in the Depression, hard times. I think they learned these styles of being with emotions during those really hard times. And I learned them from them. But when I learned focusing when I was 22 years old, that's 50 years ago now, I discovered that I can be present to how I feel, and that doesn't make it worse. And often, when I acknowledge how I feel, there's a kind of relief, a kind of release. Not always, but often. We were just talking about witnessing ourselves. Witnessing ourselves. When you are present to yourself, you're completing a communication. Something can happen that couldn't happen before that. If we are cut off, if we're just focused outside of ourselves, there's something that can't happen, something enlivening about spending time just listening to how you are. So take a moment right now. How are you? And let yourself listen to what's here at this moment. It might even surprise you. You might have been thinking you were really down and sad today. And as you go inside right now, you might discover it's a little different from that. So let's see. And one of the things that happens is your body doesn't necessarily speak to you in words. Sometimes people say, I don't know how I'm feeling, but what they mean is they're feeling something and they don't know what word to put onto that feeling. But we don't have to put words on our feelings. Let's listen to our feelings in the language that they are using. The language of tight or heavy, or I just can't put this into words at all, but it's right here. That's just fine. You are still getting that message. Very good. Yeah, let's look at the chat again for some of the other tips people have for what's helping. Oh, yeah, I was hoping that Haja would chime in. Zoom conversations with dear friends across the planet. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Linking and meditating at a distance. This has brought a confidence that we have these invisible loving connections. Yeah, that's a positive, isn't it? Mm-hmm. She writes, I moved to a new village during lockdown that was rather isolating. I bet it was. And walking nature brought tree and river friends. Ah, that's so nice. And I said good morning and I greeted my as yet unknown neighbors. Very good. Very good. Lovely. Yeah. So taking a moment now just to ask yourself, is there something in me that needs a little extra care today? We've been talking about what helps, but let's make sure to leave room in this webinar for the places in us that are sad, that are anxious, that are worried, that are distressed, that may even be despairing and hopeless. Because everything is welcome. And that's the atmosphere of radical acceptance of everything that enables forward steps of life to occur. When we don't allow our feelings and we don't allow what's going on for us, there's a repetition there. And when we turn toward and allow what we're feeling, there's a potential for next steps to occur. So pausing and sensing. And if there's something in you that's feeling dark, out of tune, not fitting, let's be gentle to that. You, the larger you, with our support, the support of me in this group, you can turn toward what in you needs tenderness and care. Notice how that feels. Sonia writes, there's something in me that believes I have to make up for lost time. For example, in my career, and it pressures another part of you to do more things than it's able to do. Another part of me. Although I know it's their points of view, I feel I'm a little identified with both. But Sonia, you know what? It's a huge step that you're aware of that. Good for you. And you're also using the language I recommend. Let me remind everybody of it right now, which is to say, there is something in me, and I'm sensing something in me. So Sonia would say, or is saying, I'm sensing something in me that is pushing to make up for lost time. And I'm sensing another something in me that's feeling pressured by it. And I am here with both. So that's the language and maybe even the gesture and the quality of voice that we need to not be identified with our warring parts. However, it may not be enough because each of those parts, the one that pushes to make up for lost time and the one that is having a hard time with that pressure, for each of them, there's more to that story. And as you make a space where you can spend time with one and with the other, you'll be asking, tell me more about making up for lost time. Tell me more what you're really most worried about that. And let it tell you and listen. Yeah. Good. Andrea writes, I'm feeling deep gratefulness for these sessions. Good, good. And hearing from so many people helps, doesn't it? Isn't that nice? There's about 33 people here, and many of them are writing in the chat, and those who are not are welcome too. And your listening and presence also helps. Just want to say that I'll be traveling pretty soon. We'll meet again in 2 weeks, but after that, these sessions will take a break. And I'll let you know when they start up again. May take the summer off. What would you like to do to give yourself more time, more of a break, more pausing? Let's sense that together right now. Maybe you'll even take a nap. And what would you like to do to give the hurting, sore, sad, stressed places inside you some extra attention and company? What would it be like to take a walk with your hurting, sore, sad places? Sometimes I use my little dolls to help me illustrate this. So if I have a part of me that's sad, It's not all of me. It might feel like all of me, but right now I can say something in me is sad. Then I can say hello to it. And then maybe I'll take it with me on my next walk. We are looking at the trees. We are enjoying watching a family of kids play on the sidewalk. Uh, but I walk in the neighborhood I live in. So there's houses as well as trees, and there's often kids playing, and I can feel how much it helps me to see that and smile. Yeah. Good. We have only a couple more minutes. So let's summarize what we've been saying. It's great to pause and gather your resources, which include the very fact that your body is resting on something, whether you're sitting, standing, or lying, your body is supported. Your breath is available to be in touch with. And your breath will also be telling you when there's a kind of relief or release, or when something needs attention. Your breath will get tight. Breath's talking to you all the time. Pausing to sense how the surroundings that you're in do have something nurturing for you. And pausing to sense if something in you needs some extra care or attention right now. You can let a gentle hand go there, or simply acknowledge, yes, I know you're there. I'm sensing something in me needing extra care and attention. And I'm saying, yes, I know you're there. And remembering that taking time to pause before any activity can give you more presence there, whether it's eating, working, walking, talking to somebody, speaking to a group, taking time to pause, even for a moment, allows all of you to arrive and be more present there. So that will be my big message for today. Thank you. Thank you for those who are writing. We'll be seeing you in 2 weeks. If you can be here, that would be so nice. See you then. Bye-bye. Take care. Remember to pause and be present. See you later.